Hello there, welcome to a special DFG Live. Today we're going to cover the 3 most effective ways to fix a credit score. I just read a statistic the other day that showed that a bad credit score can cost a consumer over $200,000 in their lifetime because they can't get a better interest rate. And we know that having a good credit score is a leading financial concern in our community, and we know that we're struggling with debt. So if we want to have better credit scores and we want to pay less to subsidize our debt, we need to have a good credit score. So today we're going to recommend that you download the Debt-Free Guy's Credit Score Repair Checklist. It has a step-by-step of what you can do to improve your credit score. We're going to cover just 3 of those topics today. And likewise, if you want some more assistance with improving your credit score, reducing the amount of interest that you pay on your credits, on your loans, we have the credit card payoff course that's only available for a couple more days. It actually closes Monday night for new members. So if you want some more assistance with that, definitely subscribe to become a member of the credit card payoff course. We're really excited to get things kicked off with that. It's going to be an amazing group of people, all working to pay off their credit card debt as fast as possible and get themselves into great financial position. But today we're talking about credit scores. So 3 most effective ways to improve your credit score. But let's discuss first, what is a credit score? Basically what a credit score is it's a grade that you have based on either the Fair Isaac Corporation or FICO or the Advantage Score calculation of how good of a borrower you are. So a lender such as a bank or a mortgage company, someone who's going to provide you an auto loan, they will go and look for your credit score to see how worthy of a borrower you are, to see how much of a risk that you might actually be. They don't want to lend their money to people who aren't going to be able to pay them back.
Right.
So
just like you may have some of your friends that you know that if they said, "Can I borrow $50 from you?" you know that they would pay you back, and you probably have some of your friends. You're like, "Hell no, I'm not giving you $50 because I know I won't ever see it again." Well, that's just like you make that kind of judgment about your friends. Corporations, banks, lenders make those kinds of judgments about us as to whether or not they think we're going to pay that back. And they do that based on their history with us too.
Exactly. And the credit score is having a much more of an influence over our lives. In fact, there are now employers who look at a candidate's credit score to see if they're a viable candidate for a position. So it's not just going to affect the amount of interest that you pay for your loans. It could also affect the jobs that you get. So a credit score is important. The most popular credit score is FICO, or the Fair Isaac Corporation, and the range is between 300 and 850. 850 is as good as you can go. 300 is as bad as it can get. You obviously want to have it as good as possible, but you want to have at least a good credit score of 670 or higher. 670 is probably the lowest you want to go. And then you start to see the adverse consequences of having a bad credit score, which is typically higher interest rates if you can get a loan at all. So what are the 3 fastest ways to improve your credit score? David, you want to take the first one?
Sure. So as we mentioned, a credit score is basically a corporation or an entity's way of determining whether or not, whether or not they think you will pay back a loan or pay for the services that they're going to provide. Well, the biggest way that they can tell whether or not you might do that is whether you've done that in the past. So the most important fix, the best way to fix your credit score is to get on the path of paying your bills regularly. You have to send the money as soon as you have it. So paying your bills on time, that history makes up 35% of your credit score. 35% of your grade of that 300 to 850 is made up of whether or not you're making those payments on time. So when you miss a payment or you make a payment late, it almost immediately has an impact on your credit score. We have examples of individuals who have missed a credit card payment and they've seen their credit score drop from somewhere in the high 700s down to the high 600s. So it can have an immediate impact. So as John and I have mentioned before, the best way to do this is to send the money before you have the opportunity to spend it. John's going to link to an article here, or maybe he already put that on there. This is one of our money hacks. One of our 13 best money hacks is to send it before you spend it. Now, how do you do that? How do you send it before you spend it? Well, one of the most effective ways to do that is to have a separate checking account set up for all of your bills. Put all of the money that you need to have for your bills in one checking account. Put the money that you want to spend on other things like dining out, clothing, hygiene, all of those entertainment, all of that kind of money, that should be your leftover money after you've set aside the money for your bills. Now, I know for some of you, you may say to yourself, but I still don't have enough money to cover my bills. Let's start with trying to get the money set aside for your bills first. Then we'll work on figuring out how to reduce some of those bills so that you can have more money available for the fun stuff.
Exactly.
But as we mentioned, this is the number one fix. The biggest way for you to have an immediate impact on your credit score is to start paying those bills on time.
Yep. And if it sounds complicated, setting up all these different accounts and manage them differently to manage your finances, we actually walk you through step by step how to do this in the credit card payoff course. So you would not be alone if you need some assistance with that. Simply subscribe to that course, and that's only available for 2 more days. Okay, the second way to improve your credit score is to lower your credit utilization, and what that means is having the amount of debt that you take out only less than 50% of what you have available to you. So if you have $1,000 available debt available as a
line of credit,
thank you. When you start withdrawing out 500 or more, you start to see an adverse consequence on your credit score. So you want to keep that balance below the $500 mark or below the 50% mark. The lower, the better. And usually between 0 and 30% is not going to have too bad of a consequence on your credit score. And once you start getting above that 40 and especially at 50, you start to see your credit score drop. So there are actually 2 ways to do this. One is the pro tip that we don't recommend that most people take. This is a risky strategy, but a quick way to improve your credit score and to lower your credit utilization is to have your credit line, your available credit line, increased. So what that means is make more debt available to you. But that's risky because very often people always seem to spend about what their credit limit is. They're always kind of hovering just below that maximum mark. So we don't recommend that, but that's a pro tip. If you have your finances together and you want something really quick and effective to improve your credit score, that's something to consider, but it's super risky. The best thing to do is to work as hard as possible and as fast as possible to lower the amount of your available line of credit that you're not using or that you are using. So try to get that down as low as possible. So pay off your loans as fast as possible, focusing specifically on your credit cards first, and then your auto loans and your mortgages and student loans. And again, the credit card payoff course will help you pay off your credit cards super fast. It's actually one of the fastest ways. We have a method in that course that walks you through the fastest way to pay off your credit card debt. So if you want to take advantage of that second option, which is the more fiscally responsible option, consider that.
Yeah. So I'll just add to what John mentioned about lowering your credit utilization. Your credit utilization, or the amount of your available credit that you're using, that score makes up 30% of your overall credit score. So we said the first one is your payment history, which is 35%. Your second one, which is your credit utilization, and that's 30%. So just between these 2 things, it makes up 2/3 of the amount of your score. So if you improve anything, you want to improve these. These 2 are the biggest ones. You want to focus on those as much as possible. The other 2/3 are broken down into a number of different categories. We're not necessarily going to cover those right now, but we wanted to give you a boost, a way for you to actually make both of these 2 things happen. How can I improve my payment history, and how can I boost my credit utilization? Drop your credit utilization, but boost that portion of your score. Well, one of the things that we recommend, and this is especially important for individuals who are first starting out to trying to create a credit history, is to go to a gas station. Go to Sheetz, go to Conoco, go to Phillips 66, go to one of the local gas stations, one that you already go to regularly, and sign up for a gas station credit card. Now, there's a couple of reasons why we suggest this. First, a gas station credit card typically has a very low credit line available to you. Typically, you're looking at a couple of $100, maybe maximum $500. But the nice thing is it doesn't have a lot of credit available to you. So it keeps you from spending a lot of money. But what it does is when you apply for that and you're approved for that credit card, then you are automatically going to increase your available credit, which will reduce your credit utilization. So you're going to get a little bit of a boost just by applying and getting approved for it. You don't have to use it, but you're already paying for gas, right? You use an existing card or cash already. Why not create a regular payment history with this particular card that you can use as proof that you actually are paying regularly? And what John and I recommend is that you use your gas credit card and you pay it off twice a month. Break it down into the first and the first half of the month and the second half of the month. Make sure you're sending that payment regularly. It may only be due once a month, but send it twice a month. And the reason you want to do that is you want to have that proof that you actually are paying regularly. That with that and the boost in your credit available, both of those things will increase your credit score.
One of the other reasons why I love this particular strategy is because not only does it improve your credit utilization, not only will it help you improve your payment history, but there's a good chance you're not going to really max out this credit card because you can only use the gas station credit card at the gas station. And unless you're going to buy $500 worth of cheese doodles,
or you're going to pull a Winona Ryder from Singles, please don't do that.
You like David said, you need to buy gas anyway. So this kind of keeps you within some limits and helps you improve your credit score. And you should, if you adopt that strategy that David just outlined, in about 3 to 6 months, you'll start to see your credit score improving. So those are our 3 most effective tips for improving your credit score. We have many more of those available in the credit card payoff course.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in there and say, why did John just say it's going to take 3 to 6 months? Well, the reality is you might start making those payments right away. You might get that boost in your available credit right away. Let's say you went out and you got that card and that all happened tomorrow. Let's say you got approved right away and then you started making your payments 2 weeks from now. It's going to take some time for that information to filter through to the organizations that you do the calculation that come up with your credit score. So TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, those organizations, they have to pull that information, do the calculation, and then post that information. So they do that at different times during the month. They may not do it every single month. So you may get that credit card and just have missed their cycle. Or you may get that credit card and they don't include that first payment. So it may take just a little bit of time, but typically you're going to start to see a boost happening within 3 to 6 months.
Exactly. And I think we got a question, but I don't know where it was. We're using a new tool to do these and we're still trying to figure out how to use some of the features. Did you see a question?
I don't.
Something popped up on the front. Oh, so you can see there's a question.
Any suggestions on debts that have been charged off?
Nate Martinez is asking, any suggestions on debts that have been charged off? So they've been written off. So you wouldn't have to pay them back, right?
So if you're talking about debts that have been written off by a credit collection agency, when those are written off, they're not removed from your record. The reality is what has to happen is that information will stay on your credit report for an extended period of time. Sometimes it will take several years for that information to fall off of your credit report.
Take 7 years.
Right? So there are a couple of things that you can do. If you are financially in a state where you can do this, that case can be reopened and you can pay that off. You will have to reach out to the credit agency or the credit collection agency that wrote that off. They can open it up and then you pay off that. Now, they may give you a discounted rate, which could be a benefit to you. But then once they do that, you'll want to go to the credit reporting agencies and fill out a claim to have that information removed. It is a process. This is not something that you can just hope that goes away and have it go away immediately. So Nate, what I would suggest is if you are in a position where you think you can pay it off, you may want to investigate it first. Don't call that credit collection agency right away. What you want to do is look back and at anything you may have received from them. Try to calculate how much money it's going to cost you. Did they ever send you a letter saying you can pay 80% of it or 50% of it? If you have that kind of information, good. Then use that when you call them back. If you don't have that kind of information, you want to be careful because contacting them will automatically reopen it. They will open up your credit file again, and they will start the collection process all over. So if it's been on your credit history for a long time, you may want to wait until it falls off. If it's only been a short time and you think you can pay that off, then proceed with that process to try to get it removed. But as I mentioned, it's not an easy process. You will have to pay for it, and you will have to do follow through on the various steps of contacting the credit agencies and getting them to remove it. Every one of those credit agencies on their website has a process to remove them. I know that we did a Facebook Live and we talked about one of the services like this before. I'll have to find it and I'll post it in the comments.
If after you do some investigative research and you still have some questions, don't hesitate to direct message us or comment on this feed, and we'll get back to you as well. Something else that you can do if you're not in a financial position to pay that charge off back is and if you're a good writer, especially if you can plead your case to the 3 different credit rating agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, that this was a one-time event, you fell on hard times, and that things are looking up and getting better, you might be able to get them to reduce the consequences of that charge off. But I would also say that you're probably your best bet to improve your credit score are to follow the 3 recommendations that we just outlined, whether you're able to pay back that charge off or not. Probably these 3 are most effective ways to do that. So thank you for your question. It was great to have you on here.
Yes, thanks, Nate.
And then that was all we had. That we wanted to cover those 3 things. So just a brief recap, our 3 recommendations are to the number one best thing to do is to start paying all your bills on time and in full. The second thing to do is to lower your credit utilization, ideally by paying off your debts as quickly as possible, focusing first on your credit card debt. And then third, get a gas station credit card, use it just to buy gas, the gas you need to buy anyway, and make sure you pay that bill off twice a month to make sure that you start improving your payment history. And in about 3 to 6 months, you'll start to see some improvements. If you have any questions, let us know. The credit score repair checklist is a great guide. It goes a little bit beyond what we just discussed today that to help improve your credit score. But if you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, and as always, we appreciate it when you share these videos with other people. There are probably other people in your network of friends that could use this kind of information as well. So please do so. Thank you.
Have a good Saturday.